bottom right, spawning as the red Protoss player, playing for Ting, is going to be Neeb.
I have a Ting service myself ever since they sponsored me.
Really?
Yeah, it's not very good. In the top left-hand side, spawning as the blue Protoss player, or the blue Terran player from China, it is Time.
Wow.
Very cool name.
Very cool indeed.
In all caps. Time.
Yeah, he's a cool dude as well. Young Terran player. Well, he's not as young anymore, is he? When he first got into the scene, he was a young Terran player. I played him in 2016 actually. I went to China to play the Gold Series Pro League. There was a qualifier back then in an internet cafe, and the qualifier was well organized. There was a lot of people and a lot of players, and the setup seemed nice, but then the actual computers were awful. I sat in a room where I was sharing a couch with just a casual guy that was playing, who was smoking while playing. The entire floor was covered in cigarettes, and all the settings on the PC were in Chinese. And in these conditions, with a little bit of jet lag, I had to play against Time for the qualifier match. For the main tournament actually, because I hadn't qualified. I just flew to China. It's one of the most nerve-wracking experiences. I managed to win 2-1, and back then I think he was 16, and I remember everyone calling him Little Maru in China. Call him Little Maru, and he definitely is a very aggressive player with very good micro. Very much so. But
did you win a tournament in China, or did you win a Chinese
that's a tournament I won.
When you won, very nice, very nice.
Yeah. Back then he wasn't good enough yet,
right?
No, there was no Koreans.
No Koreans whatsoever.
I had a dream bracket as well. That is absolutely scam of a tournament with nice $60,000 straight to my bank account. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's big. And we had all right, a bit more about Time. Ever since then, what I wanted to say is that we had inverse graphs basically. Ever since then, my performance has gone down. His performance has gone up. I think his absolute peak has been, I want to say, Aces Rock 2019. Where he almost took out Cyril in the round of 8. He had a fantastic performance that tournament. Just absolutely, that was the first time where I was like, holy crap, this guy is good. And ever since then, I've just kind of been waiting for him to have another performance like that. And it hasn't really happened. It just hasn't really happened, and that does make me a little bit sad, because I always find it so cool when a player stands up from one of the regions that hasn't performed in a long time, which, let's be real, China hadn't performed in a long time, as well as Time has, probably since 2010 or something like that. I would just love to see him continue on that type of streak, really represent the region in the highest rounds of these global tournaments. We'll see if Time is capable of doing it this time, as he's taking on Neeb, who of course has been the best American for, 5 years now. Ever since 2016, start of 2016, I think it has been clear that he has been the best American. Not always necessarily undisputed, but if you look back over the history, I think he has kind of always been the best every single year. He has had the best tournament performances. He has won the most. We kind of have the master of each region playing against each other.
Most definitely. And I'm not sure what the meta is like in China so much, like not sure what type of player it produces, but America definitely produces some of the more chaotic players. I think the North American region in general, very chaotic play, very unorganized. Neeb perhaps not the best exponent of that. I think that he is a more organized player, more organized in his approach than most, but yeah, I'm curious to see the style clashes between these two regions as well.
Yeah, Neeb actually is opening up with a really cool build here. This is a Zest opener with a fast robotics facility and a quick prism as well. And this is high numbers of Stalkers. Oh, Time is expecting a Phoenix opener. Look at that. He's trying to bait Phoenixes into this medevac. That's absolutely beautiful. What is he doing? Neeb isn't even responding. This is the most frustrating thing if you're a Terran player. This is such a beautiful bait, and Neeb probably didn't even see it on the minimap. Right now, Time is like, what am I playing against currently? This is ridiculous. Observer is gonna spot it. There's gonna be 4 Stalkers on the other side of the map, and I thought this was gonna be a big push with Stalkers, but instead it's just going to be like a minor harass. 4 Stalkers will blink into the main base and will try to snipe as many SCVs as they can. 4 Stalkers, of course, one-shotting SCVs.
Yes, indeed, and that is beautiful as 4 Stalkers are in the base of time right now, killing SCVs left and right. It's 5 that have gone down so far. It looks like it's gonna be 8 or 9 at least. Another blink forward actually for Neeb as he repositions his War Prism to later save those Stalkers. He's gonna get 11 SCVs for his troubles and actually saves the injured Stalker first. Beautiful moves from the American. Neeb also a very intuitive player, like we were mentioning before. There was this one BlizzCon time where he had this amazing disruptor shot where he kind of made the disruptor stop for just a second and then continued to move it on backwards. And then his opponent, I don't remember who it was, blinked back into the disruptor shot of Neeb. And I was like, wow, that was amazing. And then I asked him and I talked to him and I was like, whoa, that move was just insane, man. How did you think of that? And he was like, oh, I don't remember that move. And that's when I knew.
That's when you knew. He wasn't quite intuitively in position here to fight the Liberator. Lost 3 workers there. Also lost 2 workers against the mine. So needs to sometimes also trust on the other senses. I think the Observer did see that Liberator fly in, but didn't quite respond. Neeb is going to be going into Colossi, and with the amount of workers that he killed, if he manages to stabilize toward Colossi, this is going to be an extremely comfortable game for him. Prism is still on the map. He can go for a +1 charge attack onto a 3rd base with 2-3 Colossi with range. We see the Templar Archives going down. I think this is exactly what we're going to be seeing here, cats.
All right, let's see what Neeb brings here then, as the 4 Stalkers are continuing to push on forward. And Time, what does Time need to do here to stabilize, Kevin?
He needs to start making walls like his life depends on it, because his early game was absolutely atrocious, and there's still a Prism on the map, there's going to be Colossi, there's going to be Archons. If Time, he either needs to get some damage done on the other side real fast, or he's just gonna need to start building walls. He probably needs a bunker out here as well, or he's just going to get a move. There's 8 gates, or there's 5 gates out already, there's 5 more on the way, so it's going to be 10 gate, +1, thermal lens, and I think 2 Colossi is what Neeb is aiming for over here, all the while still expanding to a 4th base. So this isn't going to be all in, but this is a push that potentially could end the game, just because of how good his early game was.
All right, the mines are not going to help against Colossi much either. But yeah, Neeb is looking to be in a prime position here to potentially do something, as it's actually Time who's going to be moving out with a few tanks. And it doesn't seem like a huge army. At the same time, he does have a medevac to the right that's going to be looking for some damage. But those observers you mentioned earlier are still in position. 4 warpins of Zealots will be used on the side of Neeb to continue to try and fight this army of Time. It's just Marauders, but the Marines are going to help a lot with the DPS. At the same time, Time has used this opportunity to reposition onto the left-hand side. We'll see if Neeb is ready.
Yeah, Marine Drop actually gets in the natural without being taken out. Neeb is... Ooh, I don't think Neeb can actually fight into those tanks. Loses 7 workers already. Super battery activated in the natural will defend his base. The other side, Time actually doing a good job defending. A lot of Zealots have gone down and they only killed 3 SCVs total. 4th base, however, did just finish up here for Neeb. So... not the greatest trades here for Neeb, I have to admit. I really thought he could crush this a bit harder, and I'm surprised we haven't seen him launch a counterattack just yet, because he still has a very powerful army. He has those Colossi, and he has a pretty decent Archon count at this point as well. With a good gateway count, I mean, he does need to do something, cats, because he delayed his 2nd forge. He didn't even really chrono boost his armor and +1 attack that much. So his upgrades are falling behind right now. We see 2-2 has started for Time, and 1-1 is just now about to finish up for Neeb.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised to check the units lost tab to see that Neeb has lost more than Time. Of course, the losses for Time were a little bit more significant in that they were SCVs and they were earlier. But Time has done a pretty good job of restabilizing, and that's another really huge pickoff, as there's no longer a War Prism that's going to be sieging or threatening even Time on the counter offense. So this is pretty good for him to continue to move out on the map. And we'll see if he accomplishes something with this, as Neeb seems to be finding out his army to prepare to kind of wrap around this army of Time, but it will not be found there.
Oh, tank siege up just in time. There's a lot of Marines in this army. Marines, of course, not the greatest unit against Colossi. So if these tanks aren't sieged, that potentially could be some trouble. Big Zealot run by right now, hitting the natural base. A couple of SCVs are going down already, but once again, a big investment of Zealots. He will need to kill 9 to 10 workers here in order for it to be worth it. At the same time, he is pushing forward. Tanks are still not sieged in good positions. Is there a prism with this army? No, there is not. There is a 4th Colossi walking across the map though, and Neeb decides it's time to push in right now.
Yeah, very nice job. He does have a Guardian shield here available and will push in and kill 2 tanks, but that's about it for him. Very nice moves from Neeb, basically tailing the army of Time right behind him, just stepping on his toes to try and chase him back. And if those Zealots pulled Time a little bit further back into his natural, that attack could have been fantastic on Neeb's end onto the 3rd of Time. But as it is, the game seems to be pretty stable, and Neeb is taking his 5th as Time establishes his 4th.
Yeah, Time's 2-2 just finished up, so after an atrocious start, Time made good move after good move. A lot of nice sieges there, as his army was about to get caught in the middle of the map, but he managed to save it time after time. And right now, Neeb started Disruptor production, gets his Dark Shrine out, 5th base halfway done as well, and he's already on 8 gases and 77 workers. So he's going to have a very nice income, a high income. I wouldn't be surprised to see that Dark Strike being researched relatively soonish.
Yes, indeed. The Zealots are going to run straight into a mine, but they only clipped 2 of them. A lot of the shields have been depleted on a few of them. The Disruptor will be used to clear out the mine, somewhat surprisingly. And this next Disruptor actually will kill one of its own Stalkers.
Yeah, that wasn't the greatest shot of all time. It might actually be one of the worst shots of all time, especially when it comes out of Neeb, usually known for good Disruptor control. How many Disruptors are we currently at? 4. It's kind of the magic number where Terran needs to start being very careful. I usually like to go up to 6 or 7 eventually. But 4 is a nice little base here. Neeb moving in very aggressively, but with good EMPs. This fight could be scary. 2-2 has finished for Neeb. Huge spread coming out of Time. Tank in the back doing a lot of damage as well. This is not the fight that Neeb wants to take. He's gonna lose a lot of his expensive units here. He was a little bit too confident. I don't think he realized how many ghosts and how many EMPs there quite were. With no prism there to instantly reinforce. That fight went a lot worse than he probably anticipated, and right now Time could be thinking of actually launching a counterattack. Does he want to take the tanks with him? Yes, he does, and sieges one of the tanks, leaves some of the mines at home though for potential Zealot counterattacks. I think Time, how many EMPs does he have left over? It's 1? I only see 1 EMP, I think. Yeah, 1 EMP. I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. There's no Colossi left though. It's just Disruptor.
Yeah, that is very dangerous. At the same time, the Viking supply will kind of go to waste until they're landed, I suppose. Neeb actually moving on forward. He has to be really careful here. Time has been so good at just preemptively sieging in random locations where if Neeb takes a step forward, he's going to get shelled by those tanks. This War Prism looking to be taken down, but will escape with his life. Marauder is very angry at that supply depot. And on the other side of the map, Time is still posturing, but not enough tanks, I think, to continue to push on forward.
Liberator doing a little bit of damage at the 3rd base here. 8 workers to end up going down, plus 2 Terran ship weapons. He's about to finish up. Now, for people not aware, that means that you can 2-shot Stalker once that finishes with your Liberators. Kind of a big deal. If you get 1 EMP in, you can even 1-shot Stalkers. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if we see a 2nd starport go down and perhaps even get the fusion core as well for that lib range. Right now, Neeb moving into a very aggressive position. Is this where you really want to be? The Disruptor count, is it high enough with 5?
No, but at least, I mean, they carved themselves a way for the Zealots to go into the natural and the 3rd, so that's what he managed to accomplish. At the same time, Time will go and look to take down this base. A recall from Neeb is gutsy. It will not be in time, not even in time to punish. In fact, these units are just gonna die for their sins. And now Neeb collapsing onto the army, but it's gonna be blinking onto a lot of those Widow Mines, and yet another cost-efficient trade for Time. Luckily for Neeb, those Zealots on the other side of the map managed to kill 16 SCVs to kind of equalize things and retain a healthy worker lead on his side. That's really most of what's just keeping him in the game at this point.
Yeah, and another thing that's really keeping him in the game is the fact that Time had been floating somewhere around 2k minerals and 1k gas for the last minute or so. Even now, after getting a full production round in and starting a new command center, still has 1k in the bank. So needs to spend that money a little bit better. Otherwise, perhaps he would have been able to immediately counterattack there, or just kind of chase that army back home. Because Neeb's supply looked very low there all of a sudden. His worker count is still looking healthy, but Time has a massive army. He only has 64 SCVs, and there's 19 Marauders in this army. There's not a single Colossi. This is purely Disruptor dependent. There's nothing else here that does damage except the Disruptor.
Yeah, the Stalkers really don't do much damage. They are going to be good at pickoffs, good at chasing. These DTs are going to walk into the natural or to the third unattended, and one Widowmine will kill one of them, deplete the shields on the other ones. But this is actually pretty good for Neeb, who has found himself a few more workers. 12 will go down, and with that, I mean, he has a nearly 30 worker lead. But like you said, that is just more army for Time.
Yeah, and Time still has a pretty decent bank as well. Needs to be careful to not walk straight into any Disruptor shots. This is a nice position for Neeb, though. We see Time actually is trying to set up a flank here. Neeb has his back covered with observers, but I'm not even sure if having vision here is going to be enough. Do we have a recall available?
Man.
We do not. Interesting blink forward here out of Neeb. First Disruptor goes down, second Disruptor goes down. I think Time has this, cats.
Yeah, he's done it. What a beautiful flank here from Time. Will net him a 40 supply advantage, and this might just be lights out for Neeb. He still has a lot of economy and a lot of bases to lose, but he knows that that is an army that he cannot contend with. He would have lost a couple of bases at least before even being able to mount any what of a defense. So very nice job by Time, restabilizing in a game where he started by losing 11 workers to 4 Stalkers. Amazing.
Yeah, and without really getting any major counter damage back in. I mean, he eventually got 5 kills, 3 with the Liberator, 2 with the Mines, but I mean, 4 Stalkers killing 12 workers in a triple CC against 3-base scenario. This is the stuff that Terran nightmares are made of, and Time managed to survive the night. He woke up and said, look at this, I can flank, I can take out your Disruptors, and he did what a lot of Terrans struggle with, and that is the moment that TOS gets those 4 or 5 Disruptors out. If you're a Neeb fan, I think you gotta be a little bit sad after that game. It honestly looked that good as it ever could have. He was in complete control of the game. He had momentum on his side. He had the early game. He had the mid game. And then he just took a really bad fight in the middle of the map. And then he took a pretty bad fight once again afterwards with those Disruptors. Slightly too aggressive as he was finally stabilizing again. I mean, he was just up 24, 25 workers. There was no real need for him to beat our cats.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult, though, because once you start taking that fight, it's just near impossible to disengage, right? Like, your Archons are short range, your Zealots are short range, and then there was so many Vikings for the Colossus that it didn't feel like they could really run away. So it's a little difficult to fault him for that. Yeah, there was maybe more EMPs than he was imagining, like you were saying, right? Like, those Archons went down so very fast. But all in all, it's very difficult, I think, for Protoss with that type of swarmy army to kind of engage into that planetary fortress 4th location, right? Like where the Terran can really just fan out really big.
Sure, but I think the fight wasn't even necessarily where he made too many executional mistakes. It was more the decision to be that far out on the map with your Dark Shrine on the way while you're transitioning into these higher Disruptor counts and without the prison there to reinforce. I mean, he had 10, 12 gateways. He should have been capable to reinforce that position. It felt like a fight where he kind of followed his gut. He was like, oh, I think I'm in a position where I can fight, but he didn't really prepare for it well. His army wasn't crafted the way you want to craft an army for these type of fights. No prism, no vision ahead of time, and also that position. I mean, like, you can have the best micro in the world, but if you're attacking into a 180-degree concave, it's always going to be hard against Terran.
Yeah, Elaser once famously said that you can't get concave if you hold the concave. And so, yeah, Time was holding the concave. There was no concave for Neeb. Therefore,
he actually once famously said that.
He did, yeah.
That's completely true. Once again, Elaser with the wisdom of a 60-year-old or 70-year-old stuck in the body of a young god. All right.
Yes, indeed.
Where are we? In the top right, spawning as the red Protoss player. I'm sorry, Mr. Observer. I forgot where we spawned. We're gonna have playing for Ting, the American Neeb.
And in the bottom left-hand side, it is the blue Terran player from China. It is Time.
Ooh. Look at that, cats. We have an opener that we don't see a whole lot anymore here out of time. This is going to be a very fast guess. A very quick guess indeed. This is what we call a guess first. Where you take the guess before the barracks. He opens up with a marine as well and goes straight into a factory. These type of builds, Beyond loves them, absolutely loves them. No scout, straight into this bad boy. Extremely strong, there's a lot of possibilities here, and very often the Protoss will respond with a Stargate. But Terrans know that, and they started making builds to counter the Stargate. But then Protoss knows that, and they started playing Stargate. Or they started just playing like 2-gate aggression or whatever. So there's like a lot of metagaming going on over there. Neeb, however, is one of the people that whenever you talk to him and you ask him about these builds, I remember it was like last year, 6-7 months ago, these builds were very popular. And I asked him like, hey, how do you deal with it? And he said, this is actually the only thing I know how to deal with. I'm really good at defending things, and I love it when they play this against me. This was during a run. It might have been TSL, but also could have been a different tournament where he took out a couple of good Korean Terrans. I think maybe TY, maybe even did well against Maro. And he said, I just love playing against this because in a real macro game, I stand absolutely no chance. But if they just attack into me initially and I get a big lead, very often I can leverage that. So I feel like Neeb is very good in these defensive scenarios where you need to have tight responses to things. That is really kind of where he shines in this matchup, at least according to himself. And if Neeb says something, very often he is correct.
This is very true. Now the Stargate's about to finish. Do you think it's going to be a Phoenix then for sure?
I don't know.
Oh, Oracle. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah, I would have guessed that for time. I mean, it's either going to be something like a Hellion Drop or a Cyclone when I see an opening like this. And then Phoenixes seem to counter both of those. So that's what my personal preference would be. What does the Oracle accomplish by comparison? Like, why would the Oracle be good?
You can kill the Hellions a little bit easier, right? And there's also the potential for counter damage, which there isn't really with Phoenixes. We're going to see how much Neeb will take right now when it comes to damage. For Hellions will be able to, of course, one-shot these workers. Now run into the main base. There's no battery there. I know there was a battery building there initially, but it must have gotten cancelled. Yeah, that is painful because this is going to actually lose him a lot of workers. 7, 8 workers going down. There's going to be a 9 that falls. This looks bad for Neeb because worker count currently is equal. He does have some counter attack potential, perhaps. He has a Phoenix, he has an Oracle. This is not quite the strong defensive Neeb that I was describing in the first 3 minutes. He lied.
He lied.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to see a Phoenix here poke in and check the army composition of time. We'll see if Neeb deems it appropriate to continue to move on forward with these Adepts, as there's also a bunker in the front that's going to have a say. So I don't think that Neeb can do anything, and instead he's just going to settle for taking his 3rd base. The Adepts will not shade in, and at least they will, I think, spot the tank from time.
Yeah, I think he does indeed. I am a little bit worried here for Neeb, honestly. He's taking a 3rd gas, no 4th gas, and he's building a robo. I was going to say this looks to be Colossi, but he already should have had a 4th gas on the way in that case. So either his Forged Twilight is going to be extremely late, or he's going to be playing Immortal Phoenix Stalker, but without Twilight upgrade. He's actually getting a little bit of damage done here with his Oracle. Lifts the Cyclone, good move.
Yeah, lifted it up right after the lock-on as well. Didn't even see the lock-on, I just heard it. So that is pretty cool from Neeb. Will net himself an extra 3 SCV kills, much needed at this point. What is the ratio that you're looking for in terms of workers between Terran and Protoss at this point? Like, is this okay for Neeb?
No, not really. You want to probably up like 12 at this point.
Down.
Yeah. He's getting close to it, but another issue is just that he's been cutting a lot of tech in order to increase his worker count. And like, he just has nothing. The only reason why Neeb, or the only way that I can see Neeb win, if he completely crushes this push and then gets the probe up to 66 immediately. And I think that's kind of his plan here. He wants to push this back. He just created infinite gateway units, but if he doesn't crush this push, it will come back. And his units scale god-awful. Immortals, Stalkers, and Adepts. they're terrible against Terran, especially when tanks are in play. If a couple of mines hit the field, I have no clue how Neeb is planning on transitioning into a mid game. The answer seems to be a Robo-Bay, but he's on 3 gas. Look at the gas right now. He'll never be able to afford any upgrade in a million years.
Yeah, is there even charge available for Neeb right now? Is there a Twilight Council even available for Neeb right now? There isn't, is there?
No, he's nothing. His Robo-Bay is going down at 6 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. That's his first secondary tech structure.
Very good reaction from time 2. Will not lose anything but mining time. So very well done yet again. And things are looking pretty good for the Chinese here. He is holding the watchtower, still looking to angle with his army. Still has a pretty potent army here to work with. The 2 medevacs that were on the left-hand side will join this main army as well to push up the ramp and maybe take control between this natural and third base of Neeb.
Yeah, I just don't see what Neeb can do here. He has no Colossi. Guardian Shield is activated. Immortals are dishing out a lot of damage. There's no battery here even. I think Time is just going to move forward, sniping every single unit. GG gets called, and Time wins the series 2-0. Neeb gets knocked down to the losers match, and Time advances.